Field sent on their 1.5-mile journey in the Cougar. Favourite Tis a Magician broke very smartly from the outside gate, but Haywood's Beach intent on getting the lead. And Haywood's Beach takes over. Tis a Magician is right there, though, on the far side. Contagion in the pink down at the rail. There goes Cupid's Claws up to be third. Red King is racing along in fifth, and Campaign content to drop out last, 7 off the lead. Cupid's Claws running a big one on the far side, and these three have suddenly gone well clear now. Haywood's Beach in deep water. He gives way at the rail. Tis a Magician and Cupid's Claws. These are the two that come to the top of the stretch to dispute the Cougar, the second stakes. Tis a Magician, Cupid's Claws, all hot. These two nose and nose. Neither one of them will give an inch. An 1/8 of a mile to go. Tis a Magician starts to inch away. Cupid's Claws all hot, but Tis a Magician pulling clear late. And his class came through in the end. Tis a Magician and Flavion Pratt take it by about 3 in the end. Cupid's Claws was second, close then for third. Haywood's Beach, Campaign, and on the outside was Red King.
It's been another week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael Newmagic? Two pros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 292. Mr. Samich.
Huzzah!
Let's see. Thursday, record opening day handle at Saratoga. Friday, record opening day handle at Del Mar. Record handle at the Kentucky Derby. Record handle for Belmont Stakes for non-triple crown year. Tis a Magician winning another greatest stakes race. It is a grand time to be a horse racing fan. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I gotta say, Tis a Magician won at 1-5. It was about 1-9 that you were going to shamelessly enter the show for over a minute of Tis a Magician for winning that Grade 3 race. I was just waiting to see how long it would take you to do it, and then just right away we're going for the shameful plug. I love it.
Oh, yeah, right off the bat. Let's put it right up there. I mean, that's the best thing that I saw. Are you kidding me? Multiple graded stakes winner, Tis a Magician. My God, he looked amazing in the Cougar, too. You know what I loved about this one, Mike, is that he's facing... Well, aside from everything, Cupid's Claws was a horse that beat him in the Tokyo City Cup last year when he was 3. And what happened in that race is that when he challenged Tiz, he just kind of, Tiz fought, but the horse was way too strong. This year when it happens and he came ranging up on him, Tiz looked him in the eye and said, "Bah!" and just like took off and kicked clear and got that nice win. So I don't know what we do with him from here, but it was so exciting.
I gotta say, the plan better be Breeders' Cup Marathon. That should be the long-term plan here. If anyone is like getting delusional and saying Pacific Classic, Breeders' Cup Classic, like pump the brakes, go for the Breeders' Cup Marathon. That's a winnable race in that spot. Might even be one of the shorter prices. So hopefully that is the track we take here, and we got to get in that winner's circle at Del Mar if he's able to pull it off, man.
Yeah, Geist Paddle is going to be in for the Pacific Classic if Tis a Magician enters that race. I don't know if you enter it for him. There's really only 2 races between now and Breeders' Cup weekend. I agree with you. You should go to the Marathon. But you've got the Classic, which is Mount Accord at Del Mar, a track he has multiple wins over, really seems to like it there. But he gets a 95 buyer for the Cougar, too. That's not really going to – that's the bottom half of the field for what's looking like the Pacific Classic right now. There's a couple horses we're talking about later today that in the show that probably would dust him in that race if they faced him. So I think there's the Grand Prix at Belmont Park is a mile 5/8, so an extra furlong longer. $300,000 purse. He shipped well to Belmont before. He handled the track. He just didn't handle the starting gate very well in the Brooklyn, but I wouldn't hate to see him try that instead. Pacific Classic would be fun. I think if we want to win a race this year, we go back to Belmont.
Yeah, we'll see. It's just all gravy from this point on. I mean, honestly, when you got into him, do you really think you're going to have a 2-time graded stakes winner? I mean, let alone have like a horse that could possibly run in the Derby too. So it's, for me, like it's all gravy after this one. I totally get the excitement about owning Authentic. It's pretty fun to own a horse before their first race and to try and see them go through this too. It's just you're just attached to the horse in that sense. I mean, you probably threw up 5 times on Sunday in the 13 minutes leading up to this race. So you know how it feels. Best thing I saw, man, this is pretty easy. I said it to my dad walking into Saratoga on Saturday. Just carrying the cooler with the 2 sandwiches in the tinfoil and the 12 beers into that racetrack is the best thing that I saw. It's one of the most unique experiences in sports. They let you bring your own booze. You can bring your own food. You can walk right in there, so you can choose how to do it. You can sit in the clubhouse. You can sit in the backyard. You can do whatever you want, and you're able to just have a good time. And to be a mile and a half from the track last year for over a month and not get that experience, and then that first Saturday to be doing it with my dad and walking in there with that cooler, easily the best thing that I saw. The close second, like the 15 to 20 people I met at the track. I know Jason's in here. We got Vinny in here, who I saw on Friday as well. I mean, it was an absolute blast to see everybody. Vinny side to side for like 5 seconds. I ended up seeing Vinny on my daughter's birthday, and we just got there and had to run. But it's great to see everybody. Definitely come up and say hi. Shoot me a DM if you're at the track. I'd love to hang out at Saratoga at some point. Just say hi. Thanks for listening. And just to talk horses, man. It is fun to talk horses with people and to be able to meet people in face-to-face in real life. So, the best thing was walking to Saratoga, man. But close seconds, everyone I got to meet.
That is awesome. It is really great to not only being back at the track in person, but seeing friends that you would, especially in this case, you'll only see them once a year when you're up at Saratoga. So it's great that you got to experience that. It was kind of a similar feeling when I went to Santa Anita and got to hang out with Geist Paddle and his family. So that was great. Yeah, Aaron in the chat says it's the best feeling he's ever had in racing, walking in there again.
Yeah, I'm not sure he remembered walking out of there, to be honest. But, walking in, he definitely did. And funny Aaron's story, he had a dinner reservation at 5:30, which is a terrible time at Saratoga because you missed the last 3 races. But we got to see him like 5 minutes before he had to leave, and he was less than sober. And it was like I started sweating just holding my daughter out there. He had a 25-minute walk to dinner drunk to meet his in-laws. I would have loved to know how that dinner went. That to me was just one of the underlying stories of my Friday was what happened to Aaron after he left the racetrack that day.
Aaron this was Saturday, right? Aaron was not a happy camper because of what happened in one of the races we're going to talk about. I think Aaron went from happy drunk to angry drunk and disappointed drunk.
Because I don't even want to know what the Racing Dude's Twitter would have been like if Aaron was just hammered there and had to respond to that on Saturday.
Aaron was texting me what he wanted to tweet out. How about that? I'll tell you that much. But I was really jealous. I'm very excited that you got to experience it. I was jealous that I couldn't be there. It was I think Jared was too. Jared and I were texting each other like we were both a little sad because we couldn't be there at Saratoga with the guys. But I'm glad you guys had fun. Hopefully we'll have a little fun on this show. We're going to talk about the things we learned from opening weekends at Saratoga and Del Mar. I got some really good burning questions here from Mike. So I'm excited to get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, Mike, first race we're going to talk about the Grade 1 $1 million Haskell Stakes from Monmouth Park. This had a Breeders' Cup Classic win, and you're in berth on the line last year. If you remember, Authentic won the Haskell narrowly, ran off with the Breeders' Cup Classic with that berth from that race. This time we had an exciting showdown that turned into an extremely scary moment in the stretch, and then a few seconds later, thankfully, felt a lot better. You see Mandaloun gets named the winner of the Haskell after Hot Rod Charlie gets taken down for disqualified. He's disqualified because he cut right in front of Midnight Bourbon, made that horse stumble pretty badly. Luckily, he's okay. Racing manager for Winchell Thoroughbreds owns him, posted some videos. He's back at Saratoga. He's already playing in his round pen. So thank goodness he and jockey Paco Lopez are both doing well. But, Mike, a lot of controversy here. I guess my first question for you, it's not a burning question, but what did you think about the Haskell, and was the best horse the one that was disqualified?
I mean, I don't know. Who knows at Monmouth? It's just who knows. Like I bitched about this a couple shows ago. You want to know what I learned from this race? Following C, not as good at everybody else. That's about it. I mean, Hot Rod Charlie ran a Hot Rod Charlie race. Mandaloun got passed and all of a sudden got interested again on the rail. So if he had a whip, we don't know if Mandaloun ever would have gotten passed by Hot Rod Charlie. Midnight Bourbon ran the Midnight Bourbon race that we know and love for Midnight Bourbon, where he kind of is relevant and then is kind of irrelevant down toward the end. A bunch of people are saying, well, if he had a whip, it would have been better. And then other people are saying, you're an idiot. If you think he had a whip, it would have been better. All I know is if he had a whip, we wouldn't have to talk about this because we would know for sure. There'd be no negative here. I mean, so and you watch Monmouth and look, I posted a clown show GIF on Twitter after this race, and it's just what it is. Like you have no consistency from a horse perspective. You have horses re-rallying all day and all night. It's ridiculous what you see there. I don't know how you can bet it. I didn't even bet on Haskell Day. That's crazy for me. I usually love Haskell Day, but I didn't play on Haskell Day at all. I was happy to just play Saratoga. Del Mar's been putting out great cards. What do you take from this? I learned nothing from this race. Mandaloun's good, but I already knew that. Hot Rod Charlie likes to try really hard. Kind of already knew that. Midnight Bourbon's a cup below. Kind of already knew that. All right, what next?
Well, the one burning question I have for you, would a more lenient whip rule, like even if you see something in California where they're limited to when they can use it and how often, but they are allowed to use it, would that have prevented something like what we saw in the stretch?
I can tell you one thing. It sure as shit wouldn't have made it worse. Right? I don't know if it would have prevented it. I'd say ask Flavian Pratt about that. He's the one who could definitely tell you, but it couldn't have been any worse with him holding a whip. There are ways where if he could have corrected it, I would rather have him up there and say that, look, you're not improving people's opinions by not having a whip there. So what the hell is the point of this rule?
Yeah, it's not a good look for it, whether or not it would have worked. And I've seen people who are much smarter than us debating it a lot on Twitter since the race ended. I agree with Mike. It wouldn't have hurt anything. But unfortunately, we're just never going to know.
It was also interesting because Daniel Centeno said the horse shouldn't come down because he didn't have a whip, which I thought was interesting coming from a jockey, saying because there's no whip, the horse should stay up. This is what happens. So I thought that was an interesting look too, because the horse had to come down from a betting perspective. It clearly caused an issue and clearly came over. It's not like there's any doubt there. Paco wasn't faking this. That actually happened. So I was surprised by that take, but I also thought it was kind of interesting coming from a jockey.
Let's head over to Del Mar. Saturday, we got to see the San Diego Handicap. This is the local prep for the Pacific Classic Grade 1 race. We talked about Tiz the Magician possibly going to. Express Train gets the win here. He had a nice stalking trip. Mike said exactly where I thought he was going to. Took over in the stretch and then had enough to hold off a couple of horses that Royal Ship was the heavy favorite. He seemed to kind of stop halfway home along the rail. Tripoli was making a huge run, got up for second late. That's a horse that I thought had a really strong price potential, and I know Nick Feldman in the chat watching with us live, I know that was a big horse for him that he had a nice win place bet on, was really hoping he was going to get by Express Train, but Express Train gets a 101 buyer for winning the San Diego. He's got multiple triple-digit buyers. He's headed off to the Pacific Classic. Assuming everything goes well for Royal Ship Tripoli, I would expect that they both go there as well. The question I have for you here, out of the San Diego, Mike, one burning question, where do you rank Express Train and Royal Ship within the older dirt mail division? Keep in mind, we just lost Mystic Guide last week for the season. He's out with a knee chip, and to help you debate that, I am going to have Mr. Aaron Halterman step in here for just a second, and I'll be right back.
Well, let's talk a little about the irrelevant race at Del Mar in the dirt mile, Aaron. How are you doing?
He says, "Hey, come on, stand by. I may have to get Colson." And I get this race, really? I mean, Thomas, take it away and talk about this.
I mean, I was actually going to ask Magic a burning question. If this was a Gulfstream this weekend instead of Del Mar, would we be talking about it on Monday?
If it was literally anywhere, nobody would care. I mean, I do not care at all about this.
It was an exciting race. I thought, Express Train did a good job to hold on. It looked like Royal Ship was going to get through on the rail. It was absolutely loaded around the turn. Wasn't really able to make up much ground. Where do I think these horses rank in the mile? This is either full fades for me. I didn't like anyone out of this field if you're talking about taking a step up in competition.
No, and I thought, I don't know. I mean, Royal Ship, there's no excuse for him. I mean, he should have won this race, and he just kind of hangs in the stretch. We've seen him do it 3 times. Express Train, we know what he is. He's been beaten multiple times. He's not great. This was a very boring race. And then Tripoli, I guess you could say, yeah, that horse kind of jumped up and did something that we really hadn't seen from him. He ran pretty good, but yeah, it's like, hey, do you really want to take any of these horses going forward? And honestly, let's talk about Tiz the Magician for just a second. Again, why? Because why not? He was just as good as these 3, right?
Well, I would say yes. And in a division where if you're talking about what's more wide open, the dirt mile, where you have multiple dirt milers who are rock stars, versus the marathon, where I think you don't have that many horses that want to go that far, that have the guts that Tiz the Magician has shown in its last couple of races. I think that gives him a huge edge for his horses you want to move forward. I mean, what do you? So I actually agree with you. I think Tripoli is the interesting one out of here. Kitten's Joy on dirt, though, kind of a unique twist there. Like, do you really believe that this is going to be the better surface long term for this horse?
No, No. But it might be the best horse out of this race, But, I don't know what they do going forward with that horse. But he was at least one to me that it's like, okay, we kind of did something there that I didn't really know what he was one way or the other. And, okay, he ran well against horses that are average to maybe on their best day a little above average. So I'll give him credit for that. But I think overall, my feeling is none of these horses are going to be able to match up in like the Pacific Classic against Hot Rod Charlie, who I don't think is just out of this world, but I think by default, he's probably going to win the Pacific Classic because there's just nothing else out there, especially with Country Grammar now gone.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's got a lot better chance at being the horse that's going to be able to long-term be able to really push forward Hot Rod Charlie-wise in the Pacific Classic. I think that specifically Royal Ship and Express Train are both horses that you can fade when they face horses that aren't the same five that they've been facing every time. And I think that it's unique here because you're seeing buyer figures that are built off of other horses at Santa Anita going 1.8 miles or 1.25 miles. You're seeing monster numbers in the two previous races. I think it was 108 and 105 for Royal Ship. He's not a 108, 105 buyer horse. And when you see that on paper, I'm hoping he takes money long-term because I think he's a horse you can fade. And we've talked about this before. Some of these stakes races, the buyers come back so big for like the horses that run second and third. It just doesn't make any sense. And you can really end up fading those horses and being profitable off of it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I just think I've thought this California division was pretty weak all year, and it kind of still is. So I don't really, nothing really changes my opinion on that. I would move on to another race, but I have no idea what Magic wanted to do next. So
you know what? I got you. We're going to remove this, and I'm going to take over a little of the producer part of the show here because I got this. So let's talk about the burning question from Diana, which was the next race we're going to talk about here. So this is a much better race to talk about. You got two absolute rock stars from the Appleby barn come over, take the Just a Game. You see almost a dead repeat of the race. And raise your hand if you were the idiot with Summer Romance on top, even after seeing the last race, right? I felt so dumb when they're coming down the stretch, and I'm like, well, the 8's winning. There's no chance of Summer Romance here to be able to hold off Althiqa. What do you think of Diana?
Oh, I thought, like you said, it was just a copy of the Just a Game, and that's all right because that was a pretty good race, and so was this one. You're right. So, I think, especially on the turf, I really take pace into play. I know you do as well. And you see it, and it's like, well, here we are again. Summer Romance, loose on the lead. Now we're at Saratoga that even plays a little better to speed, in my opinion, on the turf. Surely this time, Althiqa's not going to be able to run that horse down. And like you said, kind of with ease again. Same thing. It really wasn't in question. I really like these two fillies a lot. I thought a lot of the Diana going in. I think people like Magic and I know Jared was like, Pocket Square just sucks, and Harvey's Little Girl suck. No, if you finish 4th, 5th, 3rd, even 6th in this race, you're still really good. Like, this is a really, really good division. And I don't know, maybe to Michael Myers' point, yeah, he was awful. Or she was awful. Lisa was awful. But the other ones were good. So,
yeah, and I agree with you, man. I think these two Appleby horses, and I think you saw it too the weekend before at Belmont when you saw it, European trainers are bringing in the best European horses for some of these races now. And they weren't before. You were seeing the B squad, right? The 4 a.m. on a Friday squad, not the midnight on a Saturday squad, if you will, where they're coming in and they are bringing in their absolute best horses to run in these big pursed races. And you saw the dominance the weekend before. You saw the dominance here. You saw the dominance in Just a Game. When there's some cut in the ground, when there's some rain, and the best horses from Europe are coming, watch out.
Yeah, no question. No question. I think the only American-based horse, I don't think any filly or mare, to answer this question that Magic had ready there, I don't think they've got much of a shot. I think the only American-based turf horse that I'm interested in, and I'm sure it'll be the same for you, is Domestic Spending. I think the rest of those divisions, we better get going and get going in a hurry, or we're going to get smoked out there at Del Mar. I just listen. Chad Brown's thrown horses against these two twice now, and he hadn't been close. And if he's not close, who's going to be close, Mike?
Well, the one caveat I will put out here is, and this is the key. You said Del Mar. That is the one thing that I think is the factor that could even this out here. When you have a good Belmont, which is what we got in the Just a Game, you had a good Saratoga turf, which is what we got, and you're going to a good Saratoga turf versus a fast or firm Del Mar course is night and day difference, right? the turf course could play a huge effect on the European horses coming in at Del Mar. I haven't looked historically how it's been, but it's something I plan on doing before the Breeders' Cup, just to see how European horses have fared over California turf, specifically Santa Anita and Del Mar, because I think that could play a factor in here. If the turf is that firm, we'll see if those European horses still come over and be successful.
I don't have it off the top of my head. I think 2 or 3 European horses did win back the last time it was at Del Mar. I can't say that for sure. There, I know Santa Anita sometimes in here recently, kind of the Euros have struggled just a bit, but I don't think it's been a huge issue at Del Mar. But listen, that course, it can definitely play a little funky. So yeah, we'll see. And there's Magic. He's back.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to say that when we were there, Aaron, we had that nice hit because Mandaloun won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. So I think it matters for the Euros which specifically they bring over looking for the hard turf. Remember Santa Anita, we had Iridessa win the filly mare turf, and they specifically targeted Santa Anita because she wanted it cut in the ground, or the hard turf to run on. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking we had a Euro win the Breeders' Cup Turf itself too. I cannot remember that horse's name. Big White Blaze.
Yep, I can picture him perfectly.
Yeah, I think it was maybe the rail horse. Big White Blaze, beautiful.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter.
All right.
And now he's muted.
Sorry, it's not. Sorry, it was stuck on there. Did you want to stick around for the next one? We got one more for Saratoga on Saturday.
If you want me to, if not, I can go away.
No, you did a great job. Thanks for jumping in there real quick.
Okay.
On Saturday, before the Diana, we got to see the juvenile males in the Sanford Stakes. It was a grade 3 race. Witt was the heavy favorite. We were expecting this horse to win. He looked just as strong in start number 2 as he did in start number 1. Todd Pletcher said he's heading off to the Hopeful Stakes for his next start as a 7-furlong race at Saratoga. A nice big grade 1. My one burning question, will Witt become the first horse since the Fleet Alex in 2004 to win both the Sanford and the Hopeful, Mr. Samich?
I mean, someone better debut real fast who's real good. If not, I thought your burning question was, this horse going to be your favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? And I probably would have answered yes to that too, which is kind of crazy to think about. But we talked about Witt's inability to break and the trouble that he had in his first race. Well, guess what? He didn't break again. And he didn't do it from the one post against a bunch of horses that had won before and were supposed to be pretty darn good. And he made them look like they were standing still around the turn. Now there might be nothing in this field. We might find out that this is just way overhyped because there's not much coming out of this field, but that was 8 winners or no, I'm sorry. That was 11 winners that he faced, and he made them look like they were standing still. So I would say, yes, you're going to see Witt win the Hopeful as well, and probably be a very short price doing it unless we see someone debut that's very good very soon.
Aaron, you've seen more than your fair share of nice-looking horses win the Sanford and then go to the Hopeful and just not perform. What do you think about Witt's chances to try and buck the trend?
I think, if he gets beat, we've got a monster on our hands that beat him, because that was really, really impressive. You just don't see a 2-year-old like him very often. On debut, fell way behind, didn't break very well, and then just made up all the ground and galloped by. And I almost looked at it and said, I don't know if he can do that again. Like, he may have just faced a horrible bunch there. I wasn't dumb enough not to put him on a ticket or anything like that. But when he was running in the Sanford and he was kind of behind, and I thought, I don't know, headline report, he's running pretty good up there. He's going to be tough to catch. And it took maybe a half a second, and it went from 4 or 5 behind to he was ahead. So a 2-year-old that has that kind of move and kind of has that patience of, hey, I know when I need to run and when I can shut it off. That's pretty tough to beat, especially when you couple with the fact that he's very, very talented.
God, imagine if this horse breaks. If he doesn't spot everybody 4 lengths, what happens? And what you meant, the professionalism that he showed on the turn when he was full head of steam, he split the 2 and the 7 horse and then went wide. That's not something a lot of 2-year-olds even have the capability to do. They usually have to go 3 wide, and then they get floated out 5 wide by the other horse that's tiring. He split them and kept that momentum going. I was just really impressed with Witt.
I couldn't. I guess I'm not gonna say I'm shocked, but I was just like, wow, I can't believe he just did that. He looked like a 3 or 4-year-old sprinter that had 8 or 9 races, or maybe not 8 or 9. They don't run that much anymore, but 5 or 6 races under his belt and knew exactly what he was doing. And you watch the Sanford, and even later on the Hopeful. it's usually won by the horse that just kind of has a lot of speed and gets in a position and then just has enough stamina to kind of just last it out over the rest of them. You don't see this very often. That's what I keep kind of going back to here. That's the most impressive Sanford winner I've ever seen. No doubt.
I think we got to give some love too to Practical Joke, who had started out just gangbusters as a sire as well, standing for like 22 grand. This horse sold for over $500,000, so it was very good in the workouts too when this horse was up for sale, and like 575. And was sold to Rapoli Stable, St. Elias. Like this is a horse that has all of the connections to be a superstar on top of just the obvious talent that we've seen in these first 2 races.
Yep.
Before we move on, Aaron, thanks to Bill P1 in the chat, it's Talismanic. That was the horse. The one at Del Mar with that really beautiful blaze there.
I actually looked that up when you guys were talking. Talismanic, and then so there were 3 European winners: Mendelssohn, Wuhida.
Tourist.
What's that?
Was it Tourist as well?
No, that wasn't at Santa Anita the next year.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But it was Mendelssohn, Wuhida, and Talismanic. So
we still got to love the Euros no matter where we are on the turf, huh?
Yeah.
We're screwed no matter where we go. Aaron, thanks for jumping in, buddy. I appreciate it.
See you, everybody.
Later, Aaron.
All right, Mike. The next thing we wanted to talk about, Sunday, Saratoga weather, not so good. Sloppy. I mean, it sounded like you guys knew by the time the races ended Saturday. It's going to be sloppy, going to be off turf. Not so much fun, but you wanted to talk about something interesting here. The one burning question I have for you is Saratoga Sunday. How did the track adjust when the main track was sloppy and off turf?
Yeah, I thought this was actually really interesting. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it. If you look at the first half of the card, and it didn't rain in the first half of the card. It started raining around race 3 or race 4, and then they started sealing the track. And what you saw early on in the card is that you had to be on the lead and you had to be inside to win. You consistently saw, I think you had back-to-back wire-to-wire winners on the rail, the 2 horse and then the 1 horse in the maiden race. You had horses up close win the first 2 races as well. By the last race, you wanted to be in the 5 path. There's a really impressive Mott first-time starter, 7 horse something memories, can't remember right now, ironically. One going way down, way outside in the 3 or 4 path. And then the next race, which was the Coronation Cup, you saw the winner, the 4 horse, and the 2 horse, who was your speed, actually come into the lane in the 5 path. And the 9 horse is trying to close up the rail. And the 4 ends up winning, the 2 hangs on for third, the 9 ends up running second. And then in the last race, you see Irad on the 10 run in the 5 path the entire way around and absolutely air the field. So had his choice of where to go, was way out in front, was in the 5 path. I think it's really important. A lot of people talk about track biases and how to spot track biases and what to look for when you're looking for track biases and how much you should play them. I think they're relevant. I think you got to pay attention to them. I don't think you should handicap because of them or for them. But I think when you see jockeys in the 5 path, you have to be able to understand that the track's changed in a way. And I think we saw a much better middle track when the rain was coming down during the races than we saw the inside when the rain had been prior to the races. And that's something I think at Saratoga has been consistent year over year. If there's rain in the track, but it's not currently raining, and it's not muddy, that inside rail has often been very good. And I thought that's what you saw in the first half of the card. The outside was clearly the better place to be once they sealed it and once the rain came. So all of this is just to say, keep an eye on the jockeys. They'll kind of give away what area is best. If it's outside, closers often do better than speed horses. And secondly, if you do see a little bit of rain in the track before the races, but then it's sunny for the races, keep an eye on the rail. And if after the first couple races, speed and rail is good, start to lean on speed and rail. And if you see jockeys coming down the middle, start to look for closers. So it kind of just take note of this. There's something interesting I thought I saw on Sunday where you saw inside and then outside in the same card clearly be the better spots to be. So moving forward, make sure you kind of take a look on that and make sure that if you do see it, you adjust your handicapping for it mid-card.
Well, Jason says, you 100% agree. It's very obvious Sunday even. I saw it. Hey, man, it's great when you can get to that point where you start picking things out as a handicapper, as a horse racing fan. That's good. It's always interesting for me, but trying to figure out how to play. That's why a lot of times I just don't play when they're wet because I'm biased out here in California. If it's wet out here, it's an anomaly for us. I usually don't have to. I have to worry about maybe it's good.
It's interesting. Good. You say that. The wet days are some of the best days to play in my mind. And the reason is because of those off-turf races, if they have bigger fields, and Saratoga did a great job of this, and unfortunately, Saratoga was pretty chalky all weekend. I think you had a couple longer shots sprinkled in there, but I mean, I think I hit 2 or 3 pick 4s that paid sub $50. And there's nothing you can do there. It's just that's what they pay. You pick the winners, and it's what they pay. But specifically on those off-track days, on the turf races that have fuller fields, I think you get terrible favorites a lot of the time. And like one of the things that, I was talking to my dad, and I had the 2-horse singled in the Coronation Cup because I was playing Inside Speed before the day started because I thought Inside Speed was going to be pretty good. It turned out that wasn't the best thing in the world to do. But he said, "Oh, I saw it was 8-1 and you singled it." Well, that kind of made me wonder if I should go 2 or 3 deep. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that 8-1 is a morning line for a turf race, right? And so I think and then my dad's a very experienced bettor, but just that one comment makes you think a lot of other people are thinking the same way. So they'll be less likely to single an 8-1 shot, even though that horse went off at 3-5, right? But so I think it's an interesting chance to have an advantage over some people who are thinking, oh, I got to look at the morning line odds, look at it this way. I think it's important to take a look at essentially scratch the odds out and then find the best horse. I think a lot of people struggle doing that when they're coming off the turf.
Great lessons. I got one last one here for you, Mike. One last burning question here. But to ask it, I actually have a special guest who's going to ask it. So here we go.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Mike, the one burning question, your question for Joel Rosario. Why are you the way that you are?
Oh, my God. What a weekend from Joel. I mean,
can I tell you the stats? Because I figured it out.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to read every jockey that has the same or let more wins than him, too?
Let's start Thursday.
I'll just sit back.
Thursday opening day at Saratoga, 9 mounts, 0 wins. Friday, second day at Saratoga, 8 mounts, 1 win. Goes to Monmouth on Saturday, gets 3 wins from 7 mounts. Comes back to Saratoga Sunday, 1 for 7.
Yeah, and multiple times I needed Joel this weekend, and multiple times Joel, I don't know what he was doing, but you cannot bet him on a first-time starter till further notice. Just don't do it. I just don't do it because he just can't get the job done at all. Even when it looks like he's on a good horse, he can't get the one thing. He's supposed to get that damn 9 horse by the 1 in the stretch on Sunday. He was supposed to do it. It's like what you're good at, Joel Rosario. You're good at closing on someone, and at a horse that's tired from being burnt out by another horse early in the pace. Couldn't do it. I don't know what is going on, but man, he is he's the opposite of clicking on all cylinders at Saratoga right now. He's shooting blanks. He can't hit the broadside of a barn. He's just a bit outside. I mean, you pick what you want here. That is Joel Rosario right now, and it's brutal, man. And it's not like he's getting bad mounts. Every horse he's on is usually sub 5-1. He's on some really good Clement turf horses. He just could not get it done all weekend. And I could see it coming on Monmouth, by the way. He would be a very good full-time Monmouth rider because it's hands and heels, and he's very good at that. But, man, he was a mess at Saratoga.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is if he'd be so great at Monmouth. Also great in California. We're all going to be sitting here pissing on Joel Rosario's poor record at Saratoga. He's going to go to Del Mar for Pacific Classic.
Yeah.
He's going to crush 6-7 wins on the card. It's going to be nuts. So I don't know. He was full bell curve.
And Dennis brings it up. At some point, he's gonna be the opposite end of this, and he's gonna win 8 of 9, and it's gonna be wildly frustrating because I'll be fading him for those 9 races. And it's gonna happen, and there's nothing worse right now than to be singled to Rosario for a big score at Saratoga. You feel like you're lighting money on fire right now. It's absolutely brutal. Man, it is so frustrating to watch this live. That's one of the to be. I'm not a Joel Rosario hater. I just wish he was more consistent. I think that is and to then watch it live and play out, and when it's just all the left side of the bell curve for a weekend is pretty rough.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for joining Mike and I to go through the burning questions from the weekend. That was a very fun one to do. I had a lot of ideas this morning for.
I gotta say, your office bit there was amazing. I was cracking up. That was one of the best. That was probably the best thing you've ever done. I'm not gonna lie. The best video edit you've ever put together was that office thing right there.
I appreciate it. That was a fun one. Well, you texted it to me too. With the way you said that you wanted to talk about him. I don't know if you said it that way or if that's just how I heard it, but it was just I just heard Michael Scott. Why are you the way that you are? They're perfect.
Well, I was planning on looking up the jockey standings so I could read every jockey who had the same or more wins than him. I didn't do that. It would have taken the whole show if I had because it's so low on the list. But it is ridiculous right now, man.
But let's see. Coming up this week, we have it's the CCA Oaks. Malathat, the Kentucky Oaks. She's making her big return. So we got that to look forward to. Trying to think what else is going on this week. I haven't looked ahead yet. I know that's the big one. What do you got going on this week? You're up at Saratoga.
Going to the racetrack. That's what I got going on. No, I gotta admit this. I hate to admit this. I haven't handicapped a full Del Mar card yet because we were traveling all last week, and Del Mar's fields have been wonderful. It's been absolutely great racing up there. So I already have Wednesday's form printed out for Saratoga. I'm trying to get 2 days ahead at Saratoga so I can have Del Mar all weekend as well. Looking forward to trying to play that as well because I love Del Mar, man. It's like was one of my biggest scores ever to start out when I was kind of going through this, and I love that racetrack. I think you can get prices, and the fields have been great. And you should be sitting here talking up Del Mar's products. I think it probably was better than Saratoga's in a couple of days this weekend.
Well, I didn't want to say that because I'm biased. Again, I feel like I'm biased. I also, they didn't have the Diana. They didn't have. We even talked about Quick Call Gold. Well, we talked about him, I guess, Thursday because he just had run that race. The Golden Pal was the third star of the week for me. I put Hot Rod Charlie Mandaloun 1, Althiqa 2, and I put Golden Pal 3 because that was just, I forget it was Aaron or Jared said it first, that's one of the best horses in training right now.
Yeah, I mean, Golden Pal is probably your most likely Breeders' Cup winner last year, probably your most likely Breeders' Cup winner this year. And we're like months out, but if you told me to pick one winner right now in any division, I'd pick Golden Pal in the turf sprint.
I learned from this opening weekend at Del Mar that if I employ just the top 4 horse method that Aaron uses for the premium products, if you check that out, racingnews.com, I actually would have had a pretty good weekend betting trifecta boxes, which I never considered myself an exact or trifecta player, but just by going through and just tracking how I would have done, I actually would have done pretty well with that. So I'm going to rethink my my whole handicapping style at Del Mar. Maybe I just start turning try boxes. Maybe I just start doing that instead.
When you have full fields and you like 10-to-1 shots, tries aren't bad. Like that's when you can actually make a couple bucks playing those. When it's 6 horses and you're playing a 9-to-5 over 2-to-1 over 5-to-2, it's tough to make any money.
Ginobili got a 104 buyer. Do not get me started. He added blinkers for the first time. I did not know blinkers could do that to a horse. I haven't seen blinkers do that to a horse since Baffert.
The slam dunk, man.
It was pretty awesome, though. I mean, the horse is a multiple stakes winner. It's not like he suddenly just became, went from dog shit to that. Like, he actually is a decent horse. But I'm
pretty sure I picked him last time out, too.
Mike, we'll put it up in the air right now, Saratoga or Del Mar for next weekend. We'll see what the weather, how that plays out. But make sure you come back on Thursday. We'll be here live 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. Make sure you tune in on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. If you can join us, we'd love to have you. We'll dust off the pick fours, see if we can give you a winning ticket on Saturday's racing action. Follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Kellard. He is at Sumblebomb 18, number 8. Corporate Overlords, Mr. Aaron Halterman at Racing_Dudes. If you want to know his true thoughts on what happened in the Haskell and the result and everything, send him a DM. I'm sure he'd love to tell you everything he's thinking about. That's good to the Magic Mike Show. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.